going in, yeah, there's going to be crosswinds. Yeah, okay, it's going to be tricky through all the turns and road furniture, but it turned out to be a lot worse than I think a lot of people thought it would be. It caused a lot of carnage along the way, especially when the teams with the earpieces, had with the team directors yelling in their earpieces, 10K to go before a crosswind, get to the front. And you could see the pace amping up, like with 100K to go. What? And we were all kind of wondering, oh, well, there must be crosswinds coming up. And sure enough, there was. And it split the groups into pieces at points.
Yeah, Alex, when there is a breakaway with less than a minute gap at 120 kilometers remaining in the stage, that is a very, very ominous sign for the racing that is to come. And the breakaway of the day, it was Michael Schär and Stefan Kung. They attacked at kilometer zero up this really big bridge, and the peloton, they just kept them in check. There's this nervous energy at the front of the peloton with all the teams keeping the pace high. Not necessarily that they were really worried about Michael Schär and Stefan Kung stealing the show, but I think that just that energy, that nervousness, it just kept the natural pace of the peloton much higher than if it had been a more traditional sprint day. The duo, they got caught with 100 kilometers to go because Deceuninck Quickstep, they smelled crosswinds and they started the echelons. They tried to test out the field, see if they could break things up. And while that the echelons did not necessarily cause long-term damage in the field, it created a really, really nasty crash. And this was the first of many to come.
Well, Patrick Lefebvre, who owns and runs the Deceuninck Quickstep, I'm sure he had a big talk with his guys after losing out on the last crosswind day. And I'm sure there were some choice words said to the guys. So there was no question that a Belgian team, which are crosswind specialists, they know what to do in a crosswind, and they showed it today, big time. The crashes, oh my gosh! I mean, there was a big one. Just as guys were trying to get closer to the front, and they knew the crosswind was coming, and took down Sam Bewley, Nico Roche, Tom Scoyens. And it looked like Roche was going to be the worst off. They were trying to help him stand up. And then we just heard over the radio that Sam Bewley was out. And just as the camera cut away to the main field, we heard Sam Bewley yell out in frustration because he realized, I think at that point, that he'd been hurt so bad that, his race was over.
Yeah, these riders, they are so tough, Alex. And Sam Bewley yelling, I don't think that was a yell of pain as much as it was a yell of frustration because he was in pain. That meant it was severe enough to keep him from continuing the Tour de France. And these riders, their mentality is incredible. They want to finish the race. They want to remain in their team, helping the team's cause. And the broken collarbone, the broken bone, whatever that may be, that really is their secondary concern. Their first thought is, can I continue racing? And I think that Sam yelling was, a recognition that no, he could not continue to race. He DNF'd, not entirely sure what his injury is. It was really good to see him back on his feet at least, so it doesn't seem like it is too terrible. Nico Roche is the rider who I was really concerned about in that crash, though, because he needed help getting back up. And whenever you see a rider on the side of the road who's looking not entirely capable of supporting their own weight, it just makes your heart stop a little bit because they're thinking about getting back on their bike, but is that actually the best decision for them? Whatever the case, Nico Roche, amazingly, he did get back on his bike. He got back into the group and he finished. So hopefully we're going to see more of him. He is always a joy to see in the mixed zones. He gives wonderful interviews, very well spoken, and him and his entire Sunweb team are riding so strong this tour. So hopefully Nico Roche not too banged up.
I can't believe how tough Nico Roche was, but so many other guys crashed, got up. They're scraped up, like Tom Scoyens. Both sides of his shorts are ripped off. His shoulder, he's down to skin and bones, and kind of can barely walk. Gets on his bike and keeps going. And pretty soon, there's a picture of him riding through the cars. Guillaume Martin, Brian Cocard, Pogacar, Formolo. I mean, Formolo went down hard. His radio and on his back must have dug into his ribs because wasn't much left of the pocket holding the radio into his jersey.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point you bring up, Alex. These radios, you know, you don't want to crash. Getting scraped up, it's awful. It's incredibly painful. You have difficulty showering. You have difficulty sleeping. These things that are supposed to be your relaxing time, the things to help you get through the tour, suddenly they become torturous when you're covered in road rash. But the radios in your back pocket, they are these big, hard things. And whenever I see a rider crash on them, it's an injury that you don't necessarily think of, but that's going to bruise. That is going to seriously hurt. It can mess up your ribs if you fall right on your radio. Alex, you and I were talking about, how our radio is still so big and clunky in the year 2020. I don't know, but hopefully, I think that we were hearing reports earlier that Formula may have a broken bone. I don't know if we're going to start again tomorrow, but amazingly, these guys, they're so tough. Formula finished the stage. In my personal opinion, I think the cyclists are the toughest athletes on the planet. And today was a perfect example of it. There were so many crashes. We had another crash, that crash with Formula Martin Cocard. They crashed at 64K to go, 31K. Arkea Samsic was involved in a little crash in a tight section of turns. And then 20K to go. This is when the race really, really started to heat up again. Ineos hit the front. They sensed crosswinds. They tried to split the group up. Jumbo-Visma, they got right up there. Again, these GC teams, they have to be crosswind specialists. They have to ride like classics teams in a Grand Tour on these flat stages because you just have to be right up there at the front.